It's time for MacBreak Weekly. There is a box waiting outside my door. We're going to open it on this show. We'll also get our team's tips for the first things you should do on a brand new MacBook Pro. We'll talk about Apple's ginormous star-studded app event and why it really isn't anything to talk about at all. And is the Apple Card really sexist? We'll debate it next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 688, recorded Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. The Cookie Awards. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Metallic, a Commvault venture. Metallic provides enterprise-grade backup and recovery technology through simple SaaS delivery. To sign up for your free 45-day trial, go to metallic.io/MacBreak. And for a limited time through December 31st, 2019, with a one-year commitment, your first 3 months are free. And by Molecule. Molecule is reimagining the future of clean air, starting with the air purifier. For 10% off your first air purifier, visit molecule.com and enter the promo code MacBreak10. And by FreshBooks, the #1 accounting software in the cloud for self-employed professionals and their teams. Make running your business simple and easy with FreshBooks. Try it free for 30 days at freshbooks.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. And guess what? I'm back. Sorry. I'm here. Thank you, though, to everybody who held down the fort. You too, Andy, you especially, Andy Ihnatko, the beautiful WGBH in Boston, and apparently now working for Pixar Studios. Or are you wearing that for your Disney Plus celebration?
No, but I really like the false rumor that I work for Pixar. So is it really a lie if I just fail to correct you?
No.
There you go.
Welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you for filling in for me. I appreciate it.
Good to see you back. Actually, I wasn't filling in. It was the new hire. It was the Stig.
Oh, the Stig did it.
MacBreak.
Oh,
yes.
all right.
And he did a fantastic job.
Nice. Yes. Also, Rene Ritchie from imore.com and Vector. Good to see you.
Good. I was gone almost as long as you were, Leo. I feel really bad, but I'm glad you're back.
Somebody had to make a trip to New York City for some reason. We don't
Three of them. It was like 3 weeks in a row. I don't know what their problem is.
Oh, God. Could they just go? So you went for AirPod Pro.
AirPods Pro, and then their whole new privacy thing, and then MacBook Pro.
Jeez Louise. Also with
us.
us.
And then I come back, and Lori and Alex are gone. I don't know what's happening.
The team is back. In fact, Lori couldn't make it today, so we've got Dave Hamilton from Mac Observer. Hello, Dave.
Hey, thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to be here, and this crew is always a surprise, so it's always fun.
You never know.
You never know.
Speaking of surprises, I went in my office this morning, and there's a box waiting for me. I wonder what it could be. X? Yeah, my new Surface X is here.
Surface Pro X.
Holiday
fun. 16-inch box from
Google it's a very small bezeled box. Got it upside down there. This is the new MacBook Pro.
An inverted T.
I was a little bit mad because, as you might remember, I had given up on this. Ming-Chi Kuo convinced me it wouldn't be out until next year, and I bought a different laptop as my purchase of the year. But I'm going to send that back because this is the. I have a feeling. Now you know, Rene, you have one, I'm sure. Yes. And Andy, I saw on Twitter that you went into the Apple Store yesterday to bang on one.
Yes.
Dave, do you have one or no?
I don't have one. I've banged on one, but that's
so I've neither banged or anything. But it sounded from everybody's reports that this was the MacBook Pro we've been waiting for. That they fixed the keyboard, they fixed the thermals, so the i9 in this is giving you its full juice. New speaker system, which is supposedly really good. Rene, you love it, I think.
Yeah, I've been using it for about a week now, and it's like I'll get out of the way up front. I think the webcam is an affront to the machine. It's still 720p.
720. What's the deal?
And it does nothing. It does nothing for like if this camera was 1080p or 4K, I could use it for mobile video production because the microphone, while not outstanding, is really USB. Like it's like
pretty
a
good
mid-range USB.
Yeah,
mic.
people have compared it to a Yeti or something like that. It's certainly good enough.
And there's no Wi-Fi 6.
You could do a podcast.
So those are the two dings.
And it's not Wi-Fi
everything
6,
else on
which
my
is
list is-
weird because even the iPhone 11 is Wi-Fi 6, the new
One thing
802.11ax.
Apple does, so we have something to complain about. It's that one thing every time.
You know, it probably has more to do with chipsets than anything else, right?
Yes.
So let's.
But everything else is my wish list. They did everything I wanted them to do.
It really is the System 7 of MacBooks. It's because the logo is it sucks less.
Now I got the darker one of the two. Or did I? Yeah, that's slate. It's not quite as dark as I expected. It's almost aluminum, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's the darker one.
It is, but it's
the other one is
pretty.
real silver though.
It's real pretty. I think it's very nice. Is the hinge changed as well? I think it is.
It's just a little taller because the thing is a little deeper.
Yeah.
But you get space gray stickers, Leo. That's the important thing.
What? Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's worth it. That's worth every penny. And it's
Look at that
already
inverted
booting.
T.
Yeah, look at that key. For me, the separate escape key is also important because I use Emacs, so I actually use an escape key. So that's pretty cool.
Apple shouted out Vim during the demo.
Or Vim or VI, absolutely. Yeah, escape key is really important in VI. Also, they've separated out the fingerprint reader, so it's just kind of a separate button from the touch bar. The keys, capses, I don't have to recapitulate. Everybody knows all of this. Oh, it's talking to me. Hey, hi, Siri.
Yeah, you haven't
Hi,
clicked the
Siri.
button fast enough.
Hi, Siri. Yeah. It
You
talks
can enjoy
faster
those new
than it
arrow
used to.
keys that are just like old arrow keys and the way they
You
should
know,
be.
that's all anybody wanted was a 2015 MacBook with the new Intel processors, right?
That's it.
Yeah. It's really all they had to do was say, let's take all the bad ideas we put in 3 years ago and not actively make it stink now. We don't have to innovate. We don't have to even iterate. We don't have to have courage. We just have to say, let's take a look at the design that has worked for every computer used by a human who types with fingers and emulate that instead of anticipating humans having different sorts of hands in the next 1,000 years. So, yeah, the inverted T is a big I was kind of surprised by how welcoming the new keyboard was, simply by virtue of the fact that it doesn't seem like it's off balance, and there was something about the touch bar that really just rendered everything like it's tilted to the left a little bit. Having the escape key that's anchoring the upper left-hand corner, and as visual creatures, we start at the top left of things and work our way down and right. So when the first thing you see on a keyboard isn't there, that's discombobulating. Again, going back to a standard inverted T configuration of the arrow keys, let's make this familiar again. They didn't have the keyboard is better. I am now so relieved that I no longer have to say that there's no way in hell I can imagine myself buying a MacBook anytime in the future, because the keyboards of all the other MacBooks were just like I've been saying, a non-starter. This one, it's not a great keyboard. It's not even a particularly good keyboard, but it's an adequate keyboard at least. It won't be the reason if I don't buy another MacBook, it won't be specifically because the keyboard, which is not a deal breaker. Which is it sounds like the most faint praise, backhanded compliment I could possibly make. But really, I'm just excited by the fact that we have a workable keyboard, and that trackpad, that's got to be the biggest trackpad Apple has ever put on anything.
It is. So I remember the last time I compared the trackpad to the iPhone, and it was about iPhone size. Let's just put the iPhone on the trackpad today, and it's considerably. It's the iPhone plus an extra inch. You know, that's a big on the top. So it's the width of the iPhone's height, and it's maybe 3/4 of an inch taller. That's a big trackpad.
Yeah.
So maybe this was Apple's plan all the way along, though, right? Roll out all these changes that everybody's going to hate for 3 years, and then when we roll this machine out, we don't have to worry about them complaining about no Wi-Fi 6, no 7.5.
Because as we all know, in business history, New Coke was such a shot in the arm for Coke Classic. It was worthy of emulation by the most valuable tech company.
All right, I'm going to type on it the first time, and what I'm going to do is a password, because passwords are my best way of judging accuracy on a keyboard, because if I have to retype the password a bunch of times, that drives me nuts. And I have very weird passwords, and I type them very fast.
Make sure you do it on camera so everybody can see.
Yeah, I just did by accident. It's okay. It's just a Wi-Fi password. It's not you won't gain any real benefit. Yeah, it feels better. It doesn't. You're right, Andy. It's not the 15. It's not a Lenovo ThinkPad, but the 2015. But it's good.
It's almost twice the key travel, isn't it? Like 1.0,
1 millimeter.
1.08.
Yeah. And I actually like the spacing. So I think Ben Thompson on Stratechery had an interesting article today about Apple and the perils. Really, he talked about the perils of being dominant. He said, I don't like to use the word monopoly as a technical term, but in effect, Apple has a monopoly on iOS and macOS products. And he said the problem with that is people are going to continue to buy. They've sold more than $90 million worth of MacBooks since the keyboard debacle. People are going to continue to buy. You're not going to get the signal you would get if there were a choice, because even if people hate it, you can kind of kid yourself. Oh, no, they like it. It's just a few loudmouths because they are buying it. So there's a peril, and I think that was his point, to being so successful. And this is nothing new. We've known this for some time.
So Ben is a genius, so far be it for me to second guess him. But it's not an exact parallel, but you have companies like Nintendo who, they make the Wii, and then they make the Wii U, and then they come back and they make the Switch. And the danger is, Apple takes these big swings. Steve Jobs used to call them Babe Ruth swings. And a lot of times they hit it. They don't make very few phones. They make very few computers. They don't work like Dell or HP. But when they miss, that ball goes flying by them. And that's the risk. And I don't want them to stop swinging, because a lot of times when they do take those swings, they make really innovative things. Like I think the Force Touch trackpad, that was a risk. They made the best trackpads in the business, and they re-engineered them. And you can debate whether you like the size or not, but I think from a technological point of view, these new touchpads are way better than what they had before. And they had the same confidence level going into these keyboards. And one of their issues is that they get pushback on almost any change. If they don't change anything, people say they're not innovating. But when they do change things, people don't like it because we're change adverse. And sometimes they're going to be right, and the new way is going to be better. And after like a couple days of us getting used to it, we'll say, hey, I kind of like this. But when it's wrong, they're still in the mentality of, they're just still getting used to it, and they're going to see the same things, the same good qualities that we see in it, they're going to see in it. And that just makes, when it's wrong, they double down on the wrong, and then it takes them an extra cycle to get back on and rebuild a keyboard or something.
So in light of that, this is a pretty amazing thing for a company like Apple, a dominant company, a very, very successful company, to say, yeah, maybe we did make a mistake. Now, they're not going to say that out loud because all the other MacBooks still have the old keyboard. But I think it's new Coke unprecedented that Apple would say, okay, we give.
They rolled back on the RAM too. Like they were all in on low power RAM, and just the LPDDR4 did not come, and it did not come. Yep. And now they've gone back to DDR4 RAM, and they've had to increase battery to compensate for it. But they've gone up to like 64 gigabytes of RAM, 8 terabytes of SSD. They also, they thought that we're going to get to 10 nanometers, and they thought we're going to get to 10 nanometers, and we're still not at 10 nanometers. So now they've redone the thermals, and they could always burst. They could always deliver the i9 at burst speeds, but now they can deliver it for longer sustain as well. So in many ways, it's a regression, and it's a very pragmatic regression given the lack of advancement in the silicon that I think that they were counting for. And they've also done a really good job in totally abstracting away that silicon. So if you look at a modern Mac, it's got a layer of metal onto it, and most people wouldn't realize when it's hitting those GPUs or the CPUs. And they're shoving a bunch of stuff onto the T2 chip now, like HEVC encode decode, that still doesn't work well on Intel. So they're shoving all that onto what's equivalent to an A10 processor inside the computer. And it's sad because I'd love to see a Mac where we did get 10 nanometer Cannon Lakes like 3 years ago, and DDR4 2-3 years ago. But I think this is them fixing their mistakes and also doing their best to work around the general lethargy of x86 silicon.
It sounds like they for the most part kind of took the turn in the correct direction. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yep.
Yeah. They turned
away from the ground, away from the mountains, into the sky.
Now, having typed a little bit, and I have to say a little bit on this keyboard, yeah, you're right, Andy. It's not the 2015 keyboard. I did on iFixit. They said, oh yeah, it's pretty much identical. It doesn't feel like that. The travels.
It has a different. So the scissor mechanism is it's very, very similar to the Magic Keyboard that comes with the iMac. They just had to re-engineer it because the iMac keyboard is slightly angled and this one is flat.
Right.
And what they ended up doing, because they still really, really believe in not having it be very loose if you hit it on the sides. So they re-architected the rubber. It's gone back to using a rubber dome, and they re-architected slightly so that when you get to max up key travel, you got to punch a little bit to push it back down, and that equalizes stability for them.
It feels pretty good. It's not. It definitely seems a little bit quieter. I think you nail it, Andy. It's good enough.
Yeah, it's not a bad keyboard at all. It doesn't distinguish itself either way. And again, after the past few iterations, I'm happy with it. Just not, you're hoping when you get behind the wheel of a new car that the steering wheel doesn't surprise you at all.
Right.
You don't want to see any innovation there.
Right.
You want to see a round thing that responds to you doing this to it. And the keyboard is, I think, the exact same thing. You really can't, quote, innovate, unquote, because you're taking away the best feature of that component, which is consistency and reliability, in the face of whatever mandate you think that you're pursuing there.
I point you to Marco Arment's blog post. Marco.
He came in with calipers, Leo. It was the most amazing thing.
He's pretty happy. He said he had a wish list to fix the MacBook Pro, many of which were not, fixed. But he says, really, it came down to the keyboard for me, and they fixed that. So he says, I couldn't be happier. They didn't move the headphone jack to the other side, and some of the things he was hoping for. I'm on cloud 9. Look at this glorious keyboard, an escape key, inverted T arrow keys, a millimeter of key travel. It's funny. It's funny that we were talking about it as if the heavens have opened. Yeah. But the truth is, I think a lot of people, I'll include myself, want to use MacBooks. We want to love MacBooks. We love Mac OS, and we want to use MacBooks. And for Apple to do something so, as Ben Thompson called it, user hostile with the keyboard was a real showstopper.
That was a showstopper.
Like if Microsoft makes a bad keyboard, you can just go buy a Dell or go buy a Lenovo or go buy anything else. If you want to use Mac OS, you can't. Like, you're stuck with whatever Apple gives you, and that's a far greater responsibility.
Right. Yeah, that's a real challenge.
That didn't upgrade for several years, right? Because of this, and held on, hoping for this moment, but not necessarily expecting it. When it came, like you, a lot of folks, I think, thought we were into 2020 before we saw this. And so I think they're going to sell a lot of these, but I think they would have sold a lot more of the previous iteration had they not taken this particular detour. But we would have found something else to complain about. So,
we always will.
I
would have boycotted, but I did keep my 2015 for many more years than I would have liked to. But kind of as part of the job, I bought the MacBook. I bought a MacBook i9 MacBook Pro last year. I bought a MacBook Air. Ended up using only the MacBook Air because that seemed to have the least undesirable keyboard. But I'm ready to retire all of the above for this one.
I should point out that there are some people who are really angry about, people who love.
Are there?
I like the butterfly keyboard. I didn't love it, but my Twitter feed is filled with. They better not have changed the keyboard. I'm not going to go back to the old feel. I hated those old key. And Apple will tell you they have a segment of people who really love it, and I really like it, but I still maintain that it's not. Nobody hated the old keyboard, and you can't have a keyboard again with one manufacturer that some people really like and others actively hate its breathing guts. That's just not tenable for a single vendor product. But there are a group of people who are angry and put out by the mushiness, the return to the mushiness of the keyboard. I think that's hilarious, but they exist.
It has to be a minority.
No, when you look at the actual numbers, again, Apple won't disclose them, but these sold better than any. What Apple
they sold well, but again, that's what
Pro
Ben
Air.
Thompson was saying. They're going to sell well because there are people who have to have a Mac.
What Ben was wrong is that they sold well, they sold astronomically better because there was a huge amount of people who wanted a MacBook Air Pro, but Apple just did not provide a MacBook Pro on top of that. But that's not a very large segment. They sold well, people really liked them, but they had. I still maintain it doesn't matter if it's 50% of people liked them. You can't have a keyboard that 50% of people hate.
But
it doesn't work.
And Rene, I think that you hit it on the head earlier by talking about it's harder because Apple really doesn't have any competition in the notebook or desktop space, because let's face it, you can't buy Mac OS hardware that is not made by Apple. Yeah. So it's very, very easy to point to numbers that say, well, look, we're still selling lots of them. Look how many pre-orders there are for the new one. Hey, look how excited people are for our new innovative cylindrical Mac Pro. See, we are building things. We do our research. We do our homework. We're not just simply doing style over substance. We are building things that people want, but it's hard to get the numbers on. Yes, but imagine that there was a simple, very dull, gray, even beige metal box with the power and the expandability that people wanted for $300 less. Then see how much people are appreciating your innovation and how much they love the cylindrical design and the lack of a fan and the lack of upgradability. So yeah, that's Apple. Apple is unique. That's one of the reasons why we love them so much. They do so many things that no other company can possibly do. But of course, that does come with problems that no other company really has to deal with.
And responsibilities.
They put it on the spoon and we have to eat it. There's no right, that's just how it is. We don't get to hold the spoon. We don't get to see where the spoon was before. We just take it when they put it in our mouths and we say thanks. Can we please have some more?
Please, sir. Have some more. Exactly. I love it. Anyway, I'm very happy. I haven't heard the speakers yet. Should I play something through the speakers?
It's like a mini HomePod, Leo. It's really remarkable.
Especially with how flat that damn thing is. Like,
I'm
where are they
still going through
from?
the interminable setup, and I'm trying to do this, while we're talking. I'm almost done. I think I just chose dark mode.
They put Dave could explain this better than I could, but they put subwoofers back to back and drivers back to back to cancel out the vibrations while keeping the audio, which just sounds
because you don't want a machine that's shaking while you're listening, to Kanye. So
well, no, that makes sense, right? Because if you put it out of phase, then that way it would keep the thing from.
But
being
shifted. It still sounds like bass. Which
Correct.
Is interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I have to think about.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because I need to play.
I didn't realize they'd done that. That's pretty cool, Rene.
Yeah, I need to play.
It goes
some
2 levels
on
deeper on that. I forget what the scale is, but it goes 2 levels lower on bass than the previous one.
Immediately, there's updates available, of course.
And they said because they know where your head is in relation to it, they don't have to do everything that a HomePod does, because a HomePod tries to fill the entire room. It doesn't know where you are, so it has to try to spatially place things. But this has Dolby Atmos. It has the Apple system, the custom system that works to make non-Atmos content sound more like Atmos, and it does all of it assuming you're generally sitting in front of it with your head, positioned over it, so it can play sound in 3 dimensions around you.
All right. Yeah. I'm already a subscriber to Apple Music.
Are you looking for Kanye, Leo?
I'm just trying to get some Kanye, as one does.
I was using John Williams.
I could use some churching up.
Well, yeah. Part of the problem is YouTube now is really finicky about the use of any commercial music at all. So.
Oh, it's the COPPA stuff, Leo. Can't even upload to YouTube most days now because the COPPA warnings pop up so often.
Are your shows child attractive?
No, but it doesn't say that. Like, it's just like warning this, warning that. Like, you go to our new uploader. New uploader's not working. Doesn't load in. Error.
I'm a little nervous about that. We probably have kids watching.
And the laws are ambiguous, which is the best thing you want when you would draft new laws about this kind of stuff.
All right. What should I play? Let's see. What did I listen to last night? The Beach Boys. That doesn't. Shall I play some Beach Boys? What? It needs to have some bass.
Wouldn't it be nice?
How about some? Yeah, but I can't.
If
right?
You played some Beach Boys.
Oh,
right.
Something,
you can't.
Classical. Yeah, but even then there's
the 1812 Overture.
All right.
I'll give you permission to play a Fling song, Leo. I have the rights to grant that permission because I happen to know the songwriters.
Okay,
playing a band.
It's on Apple Music, though, Dave. Is it?
You got to play my album, and you got to play Rene's album.
All right.
That's right. Yeah, Fling's Bovine Abduction is on Apple Music, or at least it should be.
Now I have to figure out how to turn up the sound with the touch bar. Oh yeah. Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Get ready. Here come the cannons.
What? No. You got about another 40 seconds or 50 seconds.
I mean, look, I don't feel like I'm in Symphony Hall. It actually sounds a little tinny. But I think for videos, this is fine.
Yeah.
You're not going to listen to this. It's not vibrating.
But also the fact that you've got it cranked up and it still sounds good.
It is really. It's maxed.
Iterating itself, which is what happens.
Well, and we're hearing it through all kinds of compression and everything too from your voice.
I'm not. I'm sitting right next to you.
I did get
Here we go. Oh. Apparently, I got a non-canon version.
There goes the explosions on the 14th hole, on the 15th hole. Brian Doyle Murray is looking at that ball on the edge of the cup.
It's got to be canon, or it's not part of the official Star Wars universe.
It's not canon if there's no canon. I think it's
Title.
Nice. No canon. It's not canon. So that's it. The 16. I have to say, I love the screen. As always, Apple does an amazing job, and this thing just feels like you're almost looking at a desktop.
You go for the 8 terabytes, Leo. Their minds were blown when they announced the 8 terabytes.
How much? It's like $4,000 extra for 8 terabytes. So
yeah, so I was in a room with like Jonathan Morrison and a bunch of video producers, and they just all kind of said, "I'm never leaving things on CFast cards again."
Oh, come on. You just get an external Thunderbolt 3 drive. Come on, man. I got 2 terabytes because that's what I need for portability. So I'm going to use this for photography. So that's so I can hold my photo library, and I have my new camera's got 61 megapixel.
I was thinking about that yesterday and last night as I was trying to figure out what I felt overall about the 2019 16-inch, and one of them was that there's rumors that in early 2020 we're going to see this form factor and this new keyboard come to the 13-inch model. I'm really curious to see what configurations the 13-inch Pro is going to be in, because the only problem, if you want to call it a problem, with the 16-inch model is that it's priced so it's really, really powerful, but it's priced so high that prosumer category, the people who really could get away with a good $1,300 laptop, but maybe 3 hours out of the week they really do need a $3,000 laptop. And that's exactly where I am. Where for the most part, I can use an iPad, I can use a Chromebook pretty much for most of the things I need a laptop for. But there are times when I am doing video editing, and there are times where I am doing Photoshop, where I really just need that extra afterburner that I can kick in when I need it. However, I probably wouldn't be buying a 16-inch MacBook Pro, because for $2,300, that's a very large budget to spend on computing power, at least in my office. Whereas if they introduce a 13-inch MacBook Pro that has the good keyboard and has obviously a processor upgraded and RAM upgrades, but the minimum buy-in I can get in and out for $2,000, including tax, that would still be in the prosumer level, at least where MacBooks are concerned.
This is is that a 100 kilowatt charger? I know that's
90 something.
97, I think, because of course airlines will only let you bring 100 kilowatt hour battery on. Watt.
This one goes
watt.
to
100 watt battery. 100 watt.
Yeah.
Not 100 kilowatts. Then we could power a house. That's Dave's wall, his power wall.
That's right. Yeah, the power wall. That's right. Yeah.
No. So, but this is the biggest battery Apple's ever put in. It's probably the biggest. It's as big as the biggest batteries anybody puts on a laptop. You can't bring it on a plane if it's any bigger. And this isn't that huge of a. Is it a little bit bigger than the old MacBook 15?
It's been redesigned. It's about the same size, but it's been redesigned.
So it's got more wattage. I wonder if they're using. Are they using gallium arsenide on?
I don't know,
because that's the new GAN chargers from Anker and others are more power and less volume.
It'll charge the whole thing in 2.5 hours.
That's nice. Here, John, I'll give you the end to plug in.
To Andy's point, though, I'm really curious of what they'll do with the 13 or 14 inch, because they still use low power memory there, which is still constrained to 16 gigabytes. Although if Intel ships the 10th gen chips by next year, that'll go up to 32 at least. But they make a whole bunch of different, more portable centric choices on the smaller one, and I hope that they sort of can expand that a little bit as well.
What else is there to say about this? Let's talk a little more about price. So I got it configured. I did not get the fastest processor. I got the second fastest processor, because for a fairly big jump, you're only getting a little bit more speed. It looked like. Well, you think that was nuts, Rene? What do you recommend on that?
If you're doing if you're doing video production, the new sustained speeds are nice, and the bursty speeds. a lot of modern chip architecture isn't the same as it used to be when you would just run a benchmark and see a number, because the chips can alter frequencies so fast now that if you're doing things that benefit from bursts, what can be anything as silly as loading a web page or launching apps. But if you're doing things like rendering, I always say like just max it out. If you're not doing video rendering or anything that has a high level of compute, then you're fine.
So the choices are 2.3 gigahertz, 8 core, by the way, which seems a little bit overkill. I've never had an 8-core processor in a laptop. 9th generation i9. It will boost up to 4.8. If you want to spend $200 more, you can go from 2.3 to 2.4 gigahertz and boost from 4.8 to 5.0. I just didn't seem. It's kind of crazy when you're spending this much money on a laptop. It didn't seem like that was a worthy thing to spend money on.
Even the harshest critics this time are saying that the pricing are in line. Like the Apple has priced this.
Right.
Oh,
like
this is actually more
affordable
affordable than a comparable laptop from Lenovo. This is a pretty good price.
This is not, whereas historically the MacBook Pros have been for a really wide definition of pros, part-time pros, aspirational pros. This really is a pro-level laptop. There's nothing about this that you would not want to design. And okay, yes, I have to complain about you can't swap in an SSD when your current one blows up. But okay, fine, whatever. But in terms of performance, in terms of what it needs to do, it really does great.
What does happen if my drive dies? Do they have to desolder it? I have to get an all new motherboard.
You have to get a whole logic board swap. I have to get the iFixit teardown if that's part of a larger subcomponent. But yeah, RAM and storage are now on the board.
If those fail, you get a new logic board. Wow.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's not Apple is at the vanguard of non-replaceable components, but they're by no means unique. Even all during this debacle for the past couple of years, I'm going to talk about my 2015 ThinkPad Carbon X1. Oh, isn't it great? Isn't it wonderful? Even that has RAM soldered onto the motherboard. You can replace the SSD, but you won't be able to do a RAM swap or RAM update. But that is kind of a kick in the teeth. That not that you would necessarily need or want to upgrade your internal storage after 2 or 3 or 4 years, but these things do go bad, and it really is a kick in the teeth of finding yourself having to replace a component that costs you $850 just instead of going to Newegg or Amazon or even an alley behind the Walmart and pick up a 1 terabyte top of the line module for what, $180, $250. It's like thank you.
It's not their official line, but if you talk to their
I was going to say, to Andy's point about it being a truly pro machine, even that 6-core i7 on the quote unquote low end of this at $2,400 or whatever, that's a capable processor for what most people would need most of the time.
Yes, and especially now that the thermals aren't holding it back.
Correct.
I think I will stipulate I completely overbought. I was happy. The MacBook was too slow, but the MacBook Air was fine. I did not need all of this. Yeah. I did buy, instead of 16, I got 32 gigs. You can go up to 64 for an additional 800, but I like 32 is my sweet spot these days. I don't know why.
And the SSD is so fast. Like, it's hard for most people to tell when it's swapping and not anymore.
Yeah, I got the 2 terabytes, although it is not unusual for, as you get to these larger capacities, the drives to slow down. Do we see specs that confirm that?
I don't believe they do. I think they just double up on the bandwidth.
Put more chips in it. Yeah, because the way they do storage now, it's not a card. It's just chips run by the T2. So it would make sense that you're not going to have a penalty for a larger capacity.
One thing I was going to mention is, and this is not like Apple would never say this officially, but I've heard this from people in engineering, is overall since 2016, MacBook Pros have been, even including the keyboard issues, way more reliable. They get far fewer repairs, and one of the trade-offs they made is that they saw way more incidents of short circuits and unseated chips when everything wasn't attached to the motherboard. And when things fell, they would suffer way more damage than when the computer was made into a solid. So they felt the trade-off in terms of incident reports was better, just to make them almost like a block of metal.
One of the reasons laptops,
when they do fail, they fail big. But
yeah, one of the reasons laptops are notoriously, shorter lived than desktops is they get shaken around a lot. They get thrown in suitcases. So that makes sense. Anything to make it more stable is probably a good thing. Now, here's a tougher decision for me, and I again defer to you guys. Radeon 5500M with 4 or 8 gigs of DDR6 memory. $100 more for 8 gigs. I thought, go for it, Leo. You only live once.
Never shop while you're hungry, Leo.
That was my mistake.
For 4 years.
Never shop for computers when you're Leo.
Yeah, the problem is I ordered this while I was visiting Dubai, and since everything in Dubai costs $1 million, it didn't seem like, oh, that's the cab ride to the airport.
It's just $100 Dubai and price it
out. What kind of performance difference is this going to make, Rene? Is it a big deal?
The chipset itself is, again, like if every moment of rendering time matters to you, then you can play with those little things.
Right.
But this chipset itself is so much faster than the last chipset, and because it doesn't say Vega Pro, some people were worried about that. But no, it is like we are getting significant improvements. I was joking on Twitter yesterday that I dragged a Motion VFX plugin onto Final Cut, and it played without stammering before it even rendered, and that before it would like barely move. So it makes a huge difference overall. That's
one of the things I've noticed when I'm reading reviews about this is that while there's some improvement on benchmarks, when you get real world things like rendering video, exporting video, you see significant improvements, and that's because of the system as an overall system, not just one particular part of it.
Synthetic benchmarks aren't as useful as they used to be, and I know a lot of people still love to just download and run them, but unless you're like a Nantech, unless you're really good, and they usually write their own custom stuff, and it takes them a while to figure out how to hit those chips, you have no idea what those things are hitting or how long or what the interval between frequencies is. It just does not give you good information, but it makes for good articles and videos.
So and it's good. It's a good time to remind people that Apple has a 2-week return policy, and as long as you take really good care of it, don't put stickers on it, don't scratch it up in your book bag, but you can take it home and take good care of it for an entire week and throw the worst that you can ever imagine at it just to see how well it'll do with your actual real world problems, and then take it back if you're not happy. So that's a really good thing to remember.
And it is true. You get slate gray Apple stickers if you order the.
Ooh. That's it right there, Leo.
I still have the black ones I got from the Mac Pro 5 years ago. So now I have all 3 colors.
Did you order the new one, Leo? We have a better date on it now.
Oh, what's the date on the Mac Pro?
They said December. They said December now, and it's going to also have the 8 terabyte internal option.
I don't think I'll be ordering that.
No price on the wheel still.
Yeah. As configured with the slower of the 2 i9s, 32 gigs of memory, the 8 gigabyte 5500M, and 2 terabytes, it's $36.99. That's the price on the one we're looking at right now. So it is not cheap.
It's the same price as a starter Mac Pro.
Yeah, you can get it up to $6,000. But it's not cheap, but I have to say, again, to reiterate, it's comparable. It is. Yeah. I don't. There are Windows PCs that will run you more for comparable hardware. Yeah. So, I think Apple isn't charging a huge premium on its gear. Pretty nice. Yeah, I'm excited. Agree. Can't wait to go home. Yeah.
The question is, we need your eyes and ears, like in San Jose and nearby. Do people like shame you if they see like you got a white sticker and you got a gray sticker? Say, ooh, he can only afford two colors of the Mac. They couldn't afford the rose gold. Well, in this economy.
If you buy the new Mac Pro, they should be gold. They should be solid gold. Actual gold leaf. Solid gold. Yeah, the stickers should be actual gold leaf.
Gold lame.
Yeah, gold lame. Yeah, I think so.
No, they should give you canned goods so you can actually afford to eat that.
Steve LeMay gold.
Did Alex, when he was here, did he say he's going to buy the Mac Pro? I bet he did.
How many?
How many is the question? Yeah. How much can he get for his house? That'll determine. All right, let's take a break. We have lots more to talk about, including an Apple event, December 2nd. What? Sort of. What? But first, a word from a new sponsor, at least new to me, maybe not new to you, Metallic, a Commvault venture. Enterprise-grade backup and recovery. Metallic is built on Commvault's core technology, which means you get fast, secure backups and granular restores that fight against the #1 problem in business today, data loss. Metallic is unique. It scales across multiple workloads while mitigating the risk of data loss, security threats, issues like losing access to data in Office 365, or just, so we talk about, ransomware, all these other things, but sometimes just poor backup performance is enough to break the back of a backup solution. Not Metallic, it's fast. Default storage available through Azure, or you can bring your own. It has the capability to do backup, recovery, and migration from on-prem to the cloud. These are the Metallic products. Some of them. There's Metallic Core Backup and Recovery, which will, of course, protect physical and virtual servers on premises and in the cloud with comprehensive backup and recovery for VMware, file servers on Windows and Linux, Microsoft SQL databases. There's Metallic's Office 365 Backup and Recovery. That'll protect your mailboxes, your contacts, your calendar items, sometimes the most valuable things in your whole enterprise, whether they're in SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, or OneDrive, along with unlimited Azure storage and unlimited retention. And in many cases, your legal requirement is a retention for years, so that's very valuable. Metallic Endpoint Backup and Recovery will back up your desktop and laptop data. Oh, so I can use it for my brand new Mac to protect against deletion, corruption, or malicious attacks, secure data encryption, geolocation, and remote wipe functionalities. With Metallic, you'll be up and running in as little as 15 minutes, and you'll get simpler data protection operations with less downtime and seamless scaling, all with no big upfront investment. Safeguard your data now with Metallic. Consistency, flexibility, and scalability only a cloud platform can give you. Whether you're protecting a terabyte or 1,000, safeguard your data now and later with the benefits of SaaS with Metallic, a Commvault venture. To sign up for your first 45 days free, go to metallic.io/MacBreak. And right now through the end of the year, with a 1-year commitment, your first 3 months are free. So this is a really good deal. Great way to try it free and get a deal when you buy. Metallic.io/MacBreak. Metallic. METALLIC.io/MacBreak. Thank you, Metallic and Commvault, for your support of MacBreak Weekly. Back to the show we go. Press event December 2nd. Announced with a golden App Store icon. What? I have a theory. You check me on this. Because this is not, they've been doing this every year, right? This is not, they do these awards for the best apps of the year.
Usually it's just a press release.
Right. So I have this theory that Apple, especially with the launch of Apple TV, has decided they're looking at the Tonys, the Emmys, the Grammys, the Oscars. They're saying there should be a cookie.
A cookie.
A cookie.
What about a moofy?
Moofy?
Because Timmy's
that's
are
what Clarice
taken,
the
right?
doghouse said.
Clarice is Moofy? I don't think the Utes
And
know who
because Timmy's
Moofy
is taken.
Yeah, and Timmy's taken? That's right. Timmy. So a cookie. But I think they wanted, and I bet you Oprah will be there. I bet you Jennifer Aniston. I bet you they'll make it this glittery red carpet thing to celebrate the developers. What do you think? Am I nuts? Why are they doing and they're doing it live, right?
Can I paint you a theoretical picture, Leo?
Paint me a theoretical picture.
So my good guess about this is that it's going to be similar to what the Apple Arcade demo was at WWDC, which is, it wasn't supposed to be, it was not supposed to be disclosed. It was like someone accidentally broke embargo by posting it. It doesn't sound like it's very big. Like it doesn't sound like there's a lot of people involved.
You mean they announced this by
Apple.
accident?
No, they didn't announce it. They asked a few people to show up, and it said, please don't tell anybody on the thing. And somebody tweeted it, or a couple people tweeted it by accident.
Oh my God.
And now it's like, they're going to have like new hardware coming on December.
So they didn't send out invites and all this stuff?
They did. They don't usually for stuff like this. They did, but it's like, and I don't want to get in like too deep into the weeds on it, but there are things. This is not like a September event or an October event or even like a March event.
Well, I think it's safe to say like no new hardware, right? This is not an iPad announcement.
As far as my understanding is, this is like the ADAs happening for a very small group of people in New York.
It's more like, hey, we rented out a room. We're gonna have like a cash bar and hors d'oeuvres. Come on over if you got time after work.
I'm telling you, they need it. They need.
If it hadn't leaked, my guess is the next day you would have seen some YouTube videos and a couple like of the more socially focused blogger stuff.
Breaking my heart here.
Somebody would have someone would have found an email in their inbox from a quote anonymous source with information close to the company saying that, oh, here's some really recognizable names that if you put this in the headline of your blog or your news site will definitely get you some clicks, along with some Getty Images photos of this incredible celebrity. Did I say Black Widow? Oh, it could be any one of actors who played Black Widow in a movie in the past 5 or 10 years, but I can't say anything.
Here's your opportunity, Apple.
Get people excited.
Double down on the mistake, double down on the leak, and turn it into the cookies. Get that red carpet. How much can a red carpet cost?
Actually, no. You know what? Forget even about the red carpet. Just rent one of those like velvet ropes.
Yeah,
and, like you got the cash bar, you got like the hot pockets like sliced into little bits, and then you don't even have to tell anybody like who's behind that curtain with her, and everyone will assume, oh, it's Oprah, oh, it's Diddy, oh, it's
breaking
all
my
these
heart.
And just hey, that's how I got people to come to my first Amway sales thing. You know, you just tell if people want to assume that fabulous celebrities are like in the living room.
Not my fault.
Let them assume.
Let them assume.
I just don't want anybody to get their hopes or their expectations.
Okay, so
down.
and there will not be. This will not be the rollout of the Mac Pro and
no.
There will be fabulous celebrities in New York at the same time as this event. That we are certain of.
If this is anything less than the significance of Truman Capote's black and white ball at the Plaza in the 60s, we have every right to think this is the beginning of the end for Apple. There, I said it.
There, you said it. All right, never mind. Forget I mentioned it.
On the Mac Pro, you know, when Trump gets his tour of the Austin plant, I wonder if there's going to be like announcements from there, because if
here's the deal,
covering that anyway.
Get a red carpet for the president. You can reuse it for the cookies.
He loves red carpets. That's great. He'll be distracted.
It makes him happy.
You're doubling down on the cookies here, Leo.
I'm serious. It's a big opportunity for Apple. So apparently November 20th, the president goes to the Austin factory where the Mac Pro will be made to get a tour.
Those facial expressions, though.
Oh, no. Look at Tim Cook. He is. You will never find a picture of Tim smiling next to the president. I don't think those exist.
He married. He's the guy who married really, really well, and now he's the vice president of the most powerful brokerage firm in New York City. But he's now thinking about all the girls he really, really loved and that he will never, ever spend his life with.
The lips are a little tight, Tim.
I'm only a bird in a gilded cage.
But from a business point of view, this is the right thing to do. Obviously,
fiduciary responsibility.
It's you know, he was able to, you know, tariffs are a big headwind for Apple. By saying, well, we're going to do this in Austin, where they were going to do it anyway, at the Flex factory where they made the last Mac Pro. It helped them get not all, but most of their tariff exemptions that they were looking for. That saved them, I would say, probably saved them a lot of money. But I mean, you have to share a sandwich with the president as a result, well, so be it.
Yeah. It's just that, remember, wasn't it the Wall Street Journal that was rumoring that because of the tariffs, Apple was going to drop their plans to do U.S. manufacturing and move production of the Mac Pro overseas. And it's only because they were able to get those tariffs exempted that they were able to bring that back. So essentially, what galls me is that Trump is not, let's just say he has a very creative grasp on facts. And whereas if this were Obama, if this were George W., if this were Clinton, if this were George Bush Sr., they might, you're always like, okay, well, fine. Yes, you're responsible for all these jobs. You're responsible for, but they'd be talking in terms of here is an economic policy that seems to be working, and isn't this good for the country? I'm so on guard against him saying, I'm the guy who, all you people who have jobs here today, I'm the reason why you're working, and you should be thanking me right now. And I'm wondering what happens when, I mean, that face you saw on that expression on Tim's face in that picture. If he says things about how I brought Apple down to its knees, they were all set to screw all of you over, but I said, no, Tim, no, Mr. Apple, you're not doing that. And we could see Tim just explode. I said this on Twitter. I'll stand behind it, even though I said it kind of off the cuff. Like anything that Trump says that is an out and out lie, that he's able to say because he's able to exploit Apple and exploit this site to promote himself and his version of facts. Apple's going to be partially responsible for that. And if Apple just
isn't that what happened at Corning?
If Apple just lets that a bold mistruth go unanswered or even unacknowledged, that's not a good smell on Apple. I acknowledge that they're a company. They have to keep in business. The tariffs, they're going to be doing much better for their employees and for their customers because they have a very cozy relationship with the Trump administration. All of that I absolutely acknowledge. I'm just saying the downside of that
is
that
a risk.
You got that stink on you that is not going to wash off for a number of years.
And I'm going to guess that in the executive suite at Apple, they've talked about that.
How far do we let it go before Tim stands up and says, no, this is not how it works?
I can't imagine Tim Cook ever saying that. There's going to be some way of signaling it, maybe a press release later, gently correcting, but that is precisely the problem. You've now put yourself between a rock and a hard place. By the way, the White House has not confirmed this. So
Tim Cook gets sick at the last minute, and they bring back Dr. Dre to do the presentation with him.
Yeah, that'd be some.
Because it worked really well with Kanye, so we figure more entertainers, the better.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be a show. Now I'm going to watch because of what Andy said. I'm going to watch Tim's lips. If they get whiter and whiter.
Isn't he on Salesforce today? I think Tim is live on Salesforce today.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
For the fireside chat.
Yes, he is.
Has that started? Should we cut to that live?
No, we should not.
Okay.
You know how much customer sat you're missing out on right now, Leo?
No, because Tim is doing his Beatles medley, and that will get you a copyright strike.
I gotta say, did Steve Jobs do that kind of thing, or was he just too prickly to get a kiss butt like that? I guess. I mean, he had Bill Gates on stage, the giant Bill Gates on stage when they announced
called Madonna. But he had different relationships with IBM and Salesforce and SAP than Tim Cook does.
Yes. But it's a new world. It's a new world.
We got to see, did you see that video from the guy from the mobile ad company talking about the negotiations with Steve Jobs?
No, tell me about it.
So they're negotiating. I think it was at $325 million, and then he shows up to finalize the deal, and Steve says, "Oh, it's going to be $275 million, or we'll just ban your SDK from the App Store."
Oh my God!
And then he made some mock-ups with brands that Steve didn't like, and Steve's like, "Go down to marketing and get some good brands like Disney." And then the guy said, "Okay," and then he accidentally packed up Steve Jobs' laptop and took it with him by accident and had his phone off because he was working so hard, and security showed up asking him why he stole Steve Jobs'
Oh my God.
with Steve on the phone. With Steve on the phone with him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jobs. That just looks exactly like mine. I have a Mac.
Get fired.
And if you don't want to see your entire bookmark file posted onto Reddit 10 minutes from now, I think you'll give us $325 million.
It's not a bad strategy, actually. If you think about it.
Well, Steve was fond of saying this is not a negotiation. This requires a change of thinking on your part. So, that's powerful words there when you can back them up.
There's been a lot of rehabilitation of Bill Gates lately, the kinder, gentler Bill Gates. But this was a different era when Jobs and Gates, they were predatory. They were cutthroat. And I don't know if you had to be that way. But that's how it was back in the day.
They went in and audited Quicken saying they wanted to buy it, and then as soon as they finished auditing it, they left and made a competing product.
Yeah. Microsoft money.
This is part of these people's characters. All the stuff that Bill Gates has been talking about Android and Windows Phone, about saying, Windows Phone was good. It should have been like the most dominant phone. But I was so distracted by this antitrust suit, and then I was so distracted by it, I took my eyes off the ball, because if I were paying attention, there's no way that Windows Phone wouldn't have trounced everything that was out there. But I suppose that because of that, and because I decided to leave Microsoft and focus on charity, we saved the lives of all those kids from polio. So it was like the price price of all those kids' lives was us not winning with Windows Phone. So that's the sacrifice we. But all these, when you ever get him talking back about the industry and about like the history of Microsoft, you get back to you realize that, oh God, they touched that wound that's will not ever close completely.
That's right.
That there will always be, he's one out of every 73 nights, he still has that dream about that incident with Steve, that he figured out exactly what he should have said 2 hours later, but it was 2 hours lader, and Steve took the phone off the hook to deny him that possibility. It was there's a reason why Jeff Bezos is Jeff Bezos. There's a reason why Tim Cook is Tim Cook. On and on and on. And they're not terrible people. It's just that they have something inside them that says that I don't care if this is a big financial risk. I am going to have it this way on this issue, and that's it. And you're free to walk if you want to walk. Yeah. And you do that enough times, people don't want to walk.
This is why I don't run my own business, because I would be terrible at that. I would be terrible.
You're an artist, Leo.
I'm an artist.
Exactly.
So I had an idea. A little later on, I'm going to ask you guys to make recommendations for the first few things I should do or install on my new MacBook, because I'd love to know what each three of you, I'm sure, have some strong opinions about what apps I should put on here or what things I should turn on or turn off. So I'm going to ask you about that. I just wanted to prepare you for that. But let me give you a couple more stories before we go on. I think a bum rap, but Goldman says we're going to recheck the credit scores after David Hennemeyer Hansen and his wife complained, and so did Woz, that women weren't getting the same credit offers as men with the Apple Card. I want to point out, at a third data point, my wife got much more credit than I did on Apple Card, and not because she's richer than me, or we do file a joint return. So, but she got a much higher, and I think it really comes down to that black box that is credit and credit
it's about
scores.
Your credit history, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a joint thing; it's an individual thing, and every bank looks at it a little bit differently. Yes, we have our credit scores. That's fine. But that's just the credit reporting bureau's way of sort of tying it all together. When, say, Goldman Sachs or Citibank or anybody else pulls your credit report, they don't just get your score, they get everything. And then they get to choose how they evaluate it, and they might actually assign a different score. And then they also get to look at, what have you done with us in the past that isn't on there?
Right.
And we know more about you, right? Like there's so much about this. At Goldman Sachs, I used to work for Citibank, and
so know a little bit about this. I mean, Goldman has part of the reason this is credible is because Goldman has the worst reputation. Yeah. I mean, Apple talking about lying down with dogs and getting up with fleas. Goldman is, almost single-handedly created the credit defaults of the 2008.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let us do that. They only do that for themselves.
They wrote a lot of bad credit 10 years ago. They did write a
lot of bad credit.
Yeah, and lied to a lot of investors and paid a lot of billions of dollars in fines as a result. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Oh well.
It's just not a. It's not a like gender is never. Like they don't know your gender. They barely know.
Well, they could know it if they wanted to. They could totally know it if they want to. I mean, they have that data.
They don't consider it.
But I can't imagine. It wouldn't make sense for a bank which wants to lend you money, that's what a credit card is, to turn you down for anything but being a poor credit risk. I mean, that just doesn't.
Well, but I think the number. Sorry, Andy. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I should let you talk. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I think the most important number here is, well, second to whatever your credit score says. But let's say that you and your wife have the same credit score, Leo, and you probably don't.
We don't. She has better credit score, which is why she got more money. They're 50 points apart,
but she also may have put a different stated income on there, and that's a huge factor, right? Because
actually, with the Apple Card, do you tell them income? I don't know if you do. You do that.
You tell them. It's either monthly or annual income, but yeah, because my it's crazy, and hopefully me saying this too publicly doesn't change anything, but I had always given my kids a card with their name on it that was just a clone of one of my personal credit cards.
Yes,
right?
I did the same thing.
So I've got a really good credit rating. And my kids, as soon as they turned 18, had credit ratings or credit scores above 800.
That's why you do that.
Correct.
To give them a track record.
To give them a track record. But when my daughter applied for an Apple Card, she did not lie about her income, but they saw her credit score, which is, 8 something. She told them what her income was, and they were like, yeah, no, we're not interested. And,
they didn't even give her, they turned her down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But she's a college student. She has no income to speak of. So, of course, they turned her down.
Henry, my son, who I did the same thing with, hoping to build him a credit rating, he got turned down not by an Apple Card, but another credit card, because there was a balance, a fairly hefty balance on the American Express card that was in both of our names. But of course, it's my balance, which I pay off every month, and we use it for the whole company. So it was, I don't know, $20,000 or something. And they said, no, you owe too much. And so they turned him down. So I said, no, you got to apply after we pay the bill.
Yeah. Pick your days. That's right.
But it's a silly, it's that silly. And it is a black box. Now, maybe... when we've talked before with AI and other black boxes, that there are inadvertent biases that may well creep in, and we know, we know there's redlining in a lot of industries based on race and probably gender. So it's not inconceivable.
Did
Goldman's,
you see there was a really good tweet from Matthew Panzerino that just said, this is not how that industry works, but any amount of attention that we can draw to these black box algorithms is for the better of all of us.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and I feel similarly in that they denying women access to credit, access to financial services, that's access that's absolutely gender neutral. Denying women access to these products is deeply woven into the history of this industry, and so if there is a question that women are not being given the same, given the same sort of decisions. Decisions on credit are not the same for women as this for men. You have to investigate that. You have to force this company to explain why this is absolutely not just simply explain that why this is not happening, but also if they have an algorithm, if they have an institutional system, that this institutional system was not created in the 1940s, and no one has really decided to look at this to see if there is that kind of bias. So I'm perfectly willing to believe in the end that this was there's so many factors to be considered, that some people are not getting the credit they think they're going to get. Some people are getting more credit than they think they're going to get. However, our history in this industry of treating women like garbage is such that we have to take all of these claims completely seriously. And if there's a responsibility for any institution that wants to maintain credibility, Apple included, Goldman Sachs included, to absolutely not just simply wave their hands at it, but to provide us with the data that makes the defense. We can't simply trust them. This is too important a concept. We have to stop this before this stone that's been rolling and crushing people for the past 100 years. And it doesn't happen by simply standing out of the way.
And as Woz pointed out, Woz tweeted, "I'm a current Apple employee and founder of the company. It's the same thing happened to us, to Woz and his wife Janet. 10 times difference, despite not having any separate assets or accounts. Some say the blame is on Goldman Sachs," and this is the important part of this quote, "but the way Apple is attached, they should share responsibility. Apple can't, brush their hands and say, oh, well, it's not us, it's Goldman." They chose Goldman as a partner for this, and so it's inappropriate. Congress is going to even investigate. So
I said this from the beginning, that Apple thinks that they can. Hey, we're only responsible for creating that really cool app and making that really cool titanium card. That again, this is another case of, if they want to be in the consumer credit business, there's a certain stink that they're going to acquire that maybe they're responsible for, maybe they're not. But they can't just simply say, ooh, it's not fair that the decisions being made by this company that we decided to research and then enter into partnerships with are doing bad things. We had nothing to do with that. So that's why I hope this is a good move for them to be getting into consumer credit. It's just like Facebook wants to get into banking, just like Google wants to get into banking. Again, Apple's not unique here, but it's a weird fit for a company that still wants you to think about hippies lying in fields, dropping acid, and visiting ashrams.
It's not nearly the same thing. Sorry, Dave.
Go ahead, Dave.
It's not their first venture into consumer credit, right? Actually, when I was at Citibank, they had a card with Citibank where we had the Apple logo on the card. Yeah, it was a Citibank credit card.
The rainbow one.
The rainbow. Yeah, exactly.
And Google wants to get into checking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's where the money is. But, I remember when Apple announced, or it was rumored that Apple was going to get into the cell phone business in 2007.
Yeah.
I said, why would you get in that? That's the worst business.
That's what I was gonna say.
Nobody loves the cell phone company. But sometimes sometimes you have to do that if you want to expand, and you got to expand if you're a company.
Remember how angry people were with Apple in the very beginning when you couldn't get service on, like Jon Stewart was saying, I can't use my phone as a phone, and people didn't care it was AT&T or Singular, it was an iPhone.
It was an iPhone.
And even now, like when new iPhones come out, people get so angry at Apple for UPS or FedEx not delivering them on time. Like all of those things become Apple's problem.
It's interesting. It's unusual because I don't think it depends on the business, but more importantly on the brand. And Apple's taken that on. I think some brands, you go, well, it's FedEx's problem. If there's an Amazon delivery doesn't come through, I don't blame Amazon as much as FedEx. But Apple is one of those unique brands where there's huge amounts of consumer trust, and we expect more from any Apple product, even if it's not their fault.
Yeah, this is you can't it's I don't think it's the same. They're just simply subcontracting a service that they have nothing to do with when it comes to deliveries. And that if people complain to Apple about bad deliveries with FedEx and UPS, that's wrong.
We know that.
Should be elsewhere. But what I'm saying is that it's sort of the other way is like when you say that, oh well, gosh, you mean that people who are assembling our products are being abused and put in high stress, they're not being paid well, and lots of labor laws being violated. Oh gosh, isn't it horrible that this company that we innocently subcontracted with are doing that? We're just as mad as you are. No, you can't say that. You have this partnership relationship with this organization that you cannot do a credit card if you do not have a bank that's doing the financial end of it. So I don't think that you can say that. I'm sure that Rene wasn't making a one-to-one comparison here, but I just wanted to stick my oar in and just say that this is a much more intimate relationship, and Apple still needs. It's a bigger problem for Apple than bad deliveries.
Agreed. Just a little programming note. We don't think our power will be turned off, but PG&E has once again announced that they are going to cut power in many Northern California counties starting tomorrow. We've looked at the maps, and although the map is expanding, we are not on it, and we hope we will not be on it. But if we suddenly disappear, you know what to do. We've been through this before. We went during the fires last time. I was on vacation. I missed all the fun, all the excitement. But we were watching it, and I'll have to say it was a headline news story even across on the other side of the world. People were talking about the fires in Northern California. And I was worried about you guys and the smoke, so I sent a text because we had just received the new molecule. Did you open it and set it up? See, there is a good reason to have a molecule. If air quality can be bad. If there is fires nearby, you really need a molecule. Molecule has reimagined the future of clean air. We're really glad they're our sponsor because I had the brand new molecule in my office, and they took it out and they've been using it.
Yeah, we opened it right up.
Good. I'm glad you didn't hesitate. Let's get it. This is kind of cool because it's considerably smaller than the original. Their technology in the molecule has been verified by science. It's been tested by real people, including us. They give you put it back in a bag just to pretend I hadn't used it. Yeah, you're so. No, it was not fooled. No matter the size of the room, they use something I really like. By the way, we had the first molecule in our bedroom because Lisa has allergies. Cleared that up amazingly. It worked so well, we got a molecule for our son in his bedroom. Then we got a molecule in the studio. So we've had our molecules for a couple of years now. We have the big one in here, and it does an amazing job. It's not just a filter. It's not just a HEPA filter. It is PICO, photoelectrochemical oxidation. That no matter what size your room is, you choose the option on the molecule that says how big the room is, and whether it's a large room for the molecule air or smaller rooms, this new Air Mini, it will make that air so crystal clear and beautiful. You feel like you're in a forest breathing pure, clean air. Pollen may be the blame for seasonal allergies. It's not the pollens. It's actually their tiny proteins that break off from the pollen that are responsible, and air filters that catch the pollen aren't necessarily catching those proteins. They can pass right through a traditional HEPA air purifier. The molecule's PICO technology actually destroys those particles, keeps them out of your air. And it is so amazing. The molecule catches things that a HEPA filter can't. Look at these pictures on the website. Mold, viruses, bacteria, they're too small. They pass right through a HEPA filter. You know what I worry about all the time? Formaldehyde from carpets, volatile organic compounds from paint. Those are also captured by the molecule. Parents, pet lovers, severe allergy and asthma sufferers, you will love the molecule. You'll be able to breathe again. It was developed over 20 years by the director of Clean Energy Research Center at the University of South Florida. It's a patented system, breaks down the pollutant to its basic harmless components. Viruses, bacteria, gaseous chemicals, mold, destroyed. Your air is clean. Your air smells great. It's easy to use. It's got a great modern design. This is the new one. It's all on the site, all the papers. This is the Molecule Mini. Easy to change the filter, by the way. I got to tell you. It's just you pop it up and it goes boom and you put in a new filter. It will actually, if you compare it with your phone, automatically let you know that you need a new filter. It'll even automatically order it if you want, but you don't need to pair it with your phone. 10% off your first air purifier, either the Molecule Professional or the Molecule Mini at Molecule, Molequle, molecule.com. Enter the promo code MacBreak10, get 10% off. You might want more than one. We have them now everywhere there are people. And I'm surprised you packed this back up. Did you? I guess the smoke's over, so the molecule we've got in the studio is enough now. But it's great to have anytime the air is less than perfect. It will be perfect if you have a molecule. The Molecule air purifiers, they're the best. Huge fan. molequle.com. Promo code MacBreak10. Speaking of bad air, a total of at least 42 people have died from vaping-related lung illnesses. They think now it's the vitamin E acetate in some illicit THC pods. That's what the CDC is saying. However, Apple is taking it pretty seriously. They have removed all the vaping apps from the App Store, hundreds of apps. They never sold vape cartridges from those apps, but the apps can pair with Bluetooth-enabled vape pens and e-cigs to control the temperature and lighting. Maybe even more importantly, in some cases, the app would tell you what the pod is in the pen, its source, whether it's legit, whether it's counterfeit, what it contains. I think that's a real valuable service. Is Apple right to ban vaping apps? Dave Hamilton, you look like a vapor. I'll let you start.
Thanks for
I'm teasing.
For throwing me under the rug.
Actually, you don't. You look young. You look way younger than your must-be age, unless you've got a portrait. He's just amazing. I don't know. He never gets older. He looks exactly the same he did 20 years ago.
I try not to, but I don't understand this. This reminds me, watching this happen this summer where the CDC announced this, scare. First of all, the amount of people that die from smoking cigarettes compared to the amount of people that have died from vaping is, the numbers of rounding error. Not to minimize what has happened to these people, but it sounded immediately like somebody was cooking up bathtub vape cartridges somewhere in New York State and thought that, hey, let's use vitamin E acetate. That's good for us. That doesn't harm us. Well, it does when it's vaporized into your lungs, but they were geniuses and they didn't think about that. I
do want to say, no one should vape. If you don't vape, don't start vaping.
Don't start.
But if you are a cigarette smoker, as my daughter is, I strongly encouraged her and bought her Juul so that she would use that. That's at least a little better than burning tobacco and inhaling it. And I encouraged her also to quit. Yeah. Right. And now, on the other hand, the real problem is many companies, Juul stopped doing it, but many companies have candy, cotton candy flavored e-cigs, and they're clearly aimed at young people. And there is an epidemic, at least I know in Petaluma in the high schools. Our kid won't go into the bathroom at the high school because everybody's vaping in there. It's a real problem. So there are two issues here. One is a vape pen, I think, is a better thing than smoking a cigarette, but no one should use it if they don't smoke already. And a lot of young people are choosing it. It's cool somehow. So that is a problem.
Yeah, don't start.
Don't start, kids. But
this whole thing this summer, watching the CDC announce that, this vaping thing's terrible. And then it was like 7 days, right, that it took for it to come out that this was, somebody cooking these things up, and it's vitamin E acetate that nobody who's responsible would ever put into a vape cartridge. And it took months for the CDC to finally acknowledge that announcement. It reminded me of what we all heard in the 70s, or at least what I heard in the 70s, that, LSD stays in your spinal fluid for the rest of your life. That was debunked after 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks in the 70s is the only amount of time that lasted. Yeah. And yet people still believe it today. Yeah. So this was one of those irresponsible CDC just kind of, we'll drag our feet and we'll let this sort of become a thing. And then it was like last week that they finally came out and said, oh, by the way, it was probably illicit THC vape cartridges that some moron was using.
Well, in fact, this is why it bothers me that Apple took these apps out of the store, because one of the things these apps do is identify what the cartridges that you're using and if it's counterfeit. There's actually
I don't get it.
Potential
value. I don't
value
get why
to
they
these.
took them out.
What? So who wants to defend Apple?
And it's a bigger issue too. No, it's a bigger issue too because Apple's under huge regulatory scrutiny for the App Store. I mean, both in terms of what do I call it, like actual EU style, Department of Justice style, but also just consumer sentiment in terms of who gets to decide these things, and can Elizabeth Warren running on platforms shouldn't have their own. I think there's just a lot of attention on these things now, and it seems to me like the last thing Apple wants to do, if vaping was illegal, that would be one thing. That would be a very easy decision. So if like the government said suddenly vaping is illegal, by all means remove these apps. But I don't, as a consumer, it's not something I want Apple deciding, especially when we go back to our old discussion about Apple being the only one who puts a store on the iPhone. It's not like I can leave the Google Play Store and go to the Amazon store or some other or sideload apps. That is the place for us, and I think that adds extra responsibility to Apple and makes it unwise, I think, at the very least, for them to do this. Never mind just vaping apps, but to remove categories of apps in general.
Yeah,
there's still and plus, apps for drinking.
Yeah.
Mm. And plus, if we are in agreement that games and other software are a form of creative art, and I certainly believe that it is, it becomes a little bit problematic. It really creates a big issue for Apple that, given that they're the only place where you can get content that is non-web-based app content for the phone, to basically say that no, we will not allow this creative expression to exist in our universe. And it's easy to say no to things that are reprehensible and illegal, or even just reprehensible. But remember a few years ago, no, I think it was like 10 years ago, there was a game that was a physics correct simulation first-person shooter of Dealey Plaza, of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And of course, it was all over the news. Oh, it's horrible. They're turning this horrible traumatic event into a game. But the thing is, I think that it said, okay, fine. If you really think there was a conspiracy here, all the topography is accurate, all the physics is accurate. Here is the gun that will perform exactly as Oswald's gun performed. You tell me that it's impossible to do this from that place with this gun. And people were saying, actually, no, it's easy as pie. I got it on my second or third try, and after never having played this game before. And this is it will give you sort of an idea of. It was a way to teach people about an event in a way that maybe if you're conspiracy oriented, no other way would be successful. If you think that it's impossible, great, we will have you try to do this, and you will see how easy it is. That I've been to the museum at the book depository, where you get to stand in the window that is right next to Oswald's sniper's nest, and that is such a transformative event, because it's like, if you put 3 golf balls in my hand right now, I could hit one of these cars driving by easily. I don't have a scope. I don't have a rifle. But imagine that being about a political movement. Imagine that being about a subculture that really wants to be honored and respected as any human being should be respected, even though society says that they should not be heard and they should be erased if possible. So imagine there just being an app store policy. I'm not speaking of Apple. I'm just speaking hypothetically, that says, well, we don't approve apps that are political in nature or that are controversial in nature. And essentially, because of a rule like that, you are again taking this culture of our society that needs attention, that needs a voice, that needs to be heard, and you're becoming part of the organization that helps them to be silenced, erased, and eliminated. So that's why it's a broad problem. I know we got into this just by talking about vaping, which is I keep my opinions to myself, but when I see people vaping, it's like, oh, that there's so many. If you're going to do something silly and creative. Don't do something that's just plain silly. But this is the sort of problem that nobody anticipated at Apple or outside of Apple, that when you are creating an app store, that is simply to, of course, you have to have apps, and you're going to be controlling the app market because you're the person who defines what developers can do, but you wind up being the gatekeeper for society for a whole bunch of different content and a whole bunch of different issues. It's a huge responsibility, and I do not envy them. I'm sure they take it very, very seriously, but it's a very, very difficult problem for them to deal with.
So I don't know if it's related. We've often been asked to do advertisements for e-cigs, and I've always refused. We don't do CBD ads either. That's not the same thing, though, as blocking vape apps in the App Store, or is it? Apple says we take great care to curate the App Store as a trusted place for customers, particularly youth, to download apps. We're constantly evaluating apps and consulting the latest evidence to determine risks to users' health and well-being. This is from Axios, Ina Fried. Recently, experts ranging from the CDC to the American Heart Association have attributed a variety of lung injuries and fatalities to e-cigarette and vaping products, going so far as to call the spread of these devices a public health crisis and a youth epidemic. We agree, and we've updated our App Store review guidelines to reflect that apps encouraging or facilitating the use of these products are not permitted. As of today, these apps are no longer available to download. Matthew Myers, president of the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, said the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids applauds Apple for taking this important step and doing its part to address the youth e-cigarette epidemic. Does it address the youth e-cigarette epidemic in any way?
Do they ban cigarette apps?
Huh?
I forgot to check. Do they ban cigarette apps, like just normal cigarette apps?
Does Camel have an app on the App Store?
I don't see any regular cigarette apps.
I would hope not.
Alcohol-related apps.
There's alcohol, yeah.
And that's, I mean,
I just want some consistency there.
If you're addicted to alcohol and you stop drinking it, it will kill you. And that's okay. Like, we can have that. That's cool because society thinks that that's okay, but Apple is going to be our nanny and is going to decide what apps we can. Well,
and I also just question when they say this is we want to discourage youth from vaping. That's fine, but I don't think this has that effect at all. Does the presence of that, maybe it does, you tell me, does the presence of an app on the App Store that works with your e-cig to control its temperature or tell you what's in the e-cig, does that encourage you to do it? I don't think so. It's certainly not going to stop people. I honestly think it'll have zero, literally, not even 0.001, but zero impact on vaping and its use. Who's going to quit because, it's not in the App Store, I guess I can't do it.
Leafly and Weed Maps apps are still in the App Store.
Oh, really?
So,
well, I mean, that's just it. I mean, like, there's very few people that have complained about the lack of porn on the App Store since launch. But anything past that line, and you start to how far can they extend that? No cigarette apps, no e-cigarette apps, no drinking apps, no cannabis. Like, there just needs to be some consistency and some sort of policy, I think. Around that
and I think you're right when you say this exposes Apple to some peril. It seems like a good thing. It seems like everybody would applaud this. I'm sure they thought they would when they did it. But what it really does is highlight their monopoly in the App Store.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Singapore. It's a benevolent dictatorship, but it's still a dictatorship.
Yeah. But if you want to eat a durian in the subway, you ought to be able to eat a durian. No, maybe not.
Just chew some gum, Leo.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
I do think it's different than you declining CBD ads, though, Leo, because that's this is your show.
I'm not going to endorse them. Yeah.
You're not going to endorse it. Right. That's the difference. Is Apple doesn't have to endorse what's in the App Store.
But it is an interesting question. Does the presence of something in the App Store, does that imply an endorsement from Apple? Because that's what they think.
Soon it will.
Yeah.
If they keep limiting all this
if they keep doing this.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, right? The same thing is true if you manage, say, forums on your website. If you start censoring people inconsistently, suddenly now you are responsible for what everyone else says.
Right.
And it's a fine line, right? You have to be very clear about what you're going to do. Otherwise, you now own whatever liability comes with what the next person comes and says.
The AOL CompuServe decision.
Yeah.
Well, AOL CompuServe decision. Yeah.
I think this just there seems to be a theme running through this episode first we start talking about Apple cozying up to Trump. Well, why would they ever want to cozy up to Trump? Well, because he's making all kinds of rules and making life really, really hard for companies. And as a company, they have to get a position that allows them to continue to survive and to continue to operate. Okay, fair enough. Well, why are they getting into business with Goldman Sachs of all organizations? Well, because they really want to get into financial services as part of their push to services. There's a big upside financially and for the future health of the company for doing that. Well, okay, I guess that's okay. And then at the Apple decision desk, it's like there are vape companies that there are vape apps on our store that help people use vapes and help kids administrate their vapes and trade and collect their vapes like Pokemon. I don't know. I don't use vapes. I don't know what the apps are like. But it's like, okay, well, what is the upside for us having it in our store? There really isn't one, and we kind of hate the way it makes us look that we're having these things in the App Store. Yep, okay, let's get rid of them. I would totally understand that method of thinking. Again, you still have to criticize them for what you feel you need to criticize them for on all three of these things that I've mentioned. But I do at least see that, look, there's absolutely no upside for us, and we also don't think there's an upside for our customers to have vape apps on the store. If we can basically wash at least the stink off of this spot on our upper forearm by dropping vape apps from the store, that's one less piece of stink that we have to deal with.
Apple also might face some trouble in Germany, where there have been moves by a German parliamentary committee to force them to open up Apple Pay, and particularly open up NFC to rival providers. It is not yet the law. Well, wait a minute. This it was actually I'm sorry. It was added as an amendment to a anti-money laundering law that was adopted late Thursday by the Parliament. So this will come into effect early next year. Didn't mention Apple specifically, but says operators of electronic money infrastructure must offer access to rivals for a reasonable fee. Apple has pretty much locked down NFC for a long time just to Apple Pay. Now they've opened it up a little bit to NFC tags and so forth. Does this change? Should Apple open Apple Pay to other companies in other countries?
I have a sliding scale on this stuff. Like, I think initially it's okay for any company, and all companies tend to keep proprietary what makes them money and to open up what makes their competitors money, because that's just good business. And I think it's okay for companies to be proprietary in the very beginning when you're trying to establish new technologies, and there's just a lot of work to get these things going. But I think over time, the need, desire, and actual benefit of being proprietary evaporates. So whether that's 5 years, 8 years, whatever, I think I have no problem with any company, Google, Microsoft, whatever, Apple, doing things that are tightly integrated, because that's how you push these things out. Once they're pushed out, though, I think you absolutely have to open them up, or else you as a company also start to suffer.
Yeah. And they have opened it up. You can use YubiKey's NFC now since the iPhone 7. You can now write and read tags. I mean, they've opened it up. I can understand why Apple may not want Samsung Pay to work on an iPhone or Google Pay. But from the point of view of consumers, it would be a good thing. Huh?
It's going to become untenable at a certain point. Like, again, going back to what we discussed before, just about how the competitive markets work. Right now, like, again, in the very beginning, you have to have people have absolute faith in Apple Pay, or they're just not going to use it. And you do that by locking everything down at the hardware channel level. But over time, even America will go contact payment. It'll be ubiquitous everywhere. And then the requirement for that ubiquity will outweigh the benefits. And so I think, they've started adding every year. They've added more to NFC. It was read only. Now you can write very limited things. And I think, next year they'll be able to write more. And then probably the year after that, it'll be much more open. That's my guess anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from a trust standpoint, if they did say open NFC up wide on day one, somebody would take their iPhone thinking they were using Apple Pay, bring it near a sensor, a terminal. And now suddenly it's offering, do you want to use Samsung Pay here? Do you want to use Google Pay here? They needed to make it simple. And then this is just how Apple does things, right? They always start out very conservative with the applications for the tech. And then once that becomes pretty solid and consistent, then they start loosening up the chains a little bit. And you can do these other things now that folks understand, now that we understand how people are going to use our devices with this technology in it, now we can start opening up these other avenues here because we know that it's still not going to confuse things too much.
So Apple TV Plus came out November 1st while I was on vacation. I didn't have a chance to watch. I've been watching since. You'd never guess what the biggest show is on Apple TV Plus. It's not the morning
popularity, or
popularity. Not morning show.
Is it Dickinson?
Not. Yes, Dickinson. How'd you guess that?
So good. It's so good.
Well, that was the show I thought I could safely live without watching. It's the story of poet Emily Dickinson as if she's an emo teenager.
Yes, but it works.
All right, now I gotta watch it.
Because like if you want to target like emo teenagers, it's either Dickinson or Sylvia Plath, and you're not going to go for Sylvia Plath.
Yeah, the end of the game is not so good.
The thing that I found was so funny is that like Disney Plus launched too, and I love The Mandalorian. Like it just keeps getting better and better. It's so good.
It looks good in the trailer, but I don't want to pay another $6. Damn it.
So here's the thing: like no matter what Disney Plus does, it's going to be Star Wars and Disney and Marvel. And if you prefer DC, if you preferred Star Trek, like you're never going to get anything but Disney branded stuff. Apple TV surprised me though, in that it is a wide variety of stuff. Like even the morning show, which I didn't have like high expectations for, has gotten way better than I ever thought it would. And the range of stuff from like For All Mankind to this to like the coding thing for kids. There's a greater variety of stuff on Apple TV than I would have assumed when you told me they were launching it a year ago.
Jeez Louise.
It's not all good, but the variety is there.
I watched the morning show. I've watched 4 out of the 5 episodes that have been released so far. You're right. It's getting a little better. It's not really growing on me. It's pretty awful.
It's not Aaron Sorkin, which I think a lot of people wanted it to be.
It's faux Aaron Sorkin. That's what bugs me. It's like they couldn't get Sorkin. So they got somebody to write it like Sorkin with the walk and talk, but it doesn't have the wit.
It's not Sorkin.
It's not Sorkin.
No,
that's the problem.
Faux Sorkin.
That's the most distracting thing about it.
I agree.
You
but
think,
man, anyone who thought it'd be vanilla.
Oh, not quite.
Oh, okay. So close.
But you could say that it absolutely served its purpose, which is that when they announced that they're doing their own original programming. People at that point in the history of Apple TV, what Apple needed was say, look at all of the people that you recognize and have loved in previous TV shows that are going to be making TV shows here on Apple TV. Does it? And I'm sure they hope that it's a hit. But while they're having the debriefing on whatever lack of success the show might have had, they will at least say that, okay, but it helped us launch this network, and it helped people to come to the network and become fans of this other show of Dickinson and other shows that we're bringing in. So I'm sure that Apple will succeed despite all this. What they had to do with those, if they had no shows that gained any traction whatsoever, that would have been horrible. I mean, everyone's talking about The Mandalorian. That was something that Disney needed. Great to have that huge library of Marvel, Disney, Pixar, Fox, everything. But these channels all need to say that the stuff that we're going to deliver, that we are creating for this channel that you can't get anywhere else and you have never seen anywhere else, some of this is going to be super high quality stuff that you're not going to want to miss out on, because the next day everybody is going to be sharing a picture from the end of one of the first episodes that makes you say, oh, damn, I wish I had seen that.
Yes.
And now I can be talking to my friends about the meaning of this picture that now I have to see. Now I gotta subscribe just because I need to see why this picture from this screen came into being.
Oh, you'll know why. You'll know why that picture is. But the other thing is the bit rate for both of them is absolutely stunning. Like Apple TV and Disney Plus, like in 4K HDR, ridiculously good. It makes all the other streaming services look like they were lazy for the last couple of years.
Oh, that's good. That's a good reason to get it. I guess I'm gonna have to get Apple TV. I mean, I got Apple TV Plus. That's free. I guess I'll have to get
Jennifer
Plus.
Aniston like uses adult language in a way that I don't think anybody ever assumed an Apple program would use. So like right out the gate between that and Jason Momoa, they've dispelled any concern that Apple would.
Actually, that kind of bothers me. There are so many F-bombs in the morning show. I feel like Eddie Q pulled the showrunner aside and said, put some more F-bombs in. We don't want them to think we're weak sauce. It felt like it was overdoing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first line has an F-bomb in it.
And by the way, For All Mankind, they throw an F-bomb in. There's only one, but they throw it in early on, and I think it's I feel like it's Apple.
Although apparently it's
couldn't say
realistic, because I
frack
work with a bunch of
otherwise.
people who worked in those situations, and they say that's just how they talk.
I've been in a TV control room. It's worse. It's far worse. But it is realistic.
You want something to think about? The Mr. Rogers movie isn't rated G; it's rated PG. And that got as soon as I noticed that, I was like, "Wow, did they actually throw in like one
what
S
could
word
be in there?
just to make sure that it wasn't like lumped in with kiddie fare?"
That's a good point. So, all right, your picks. I will watch Emily Dickinson. Other picks from Apple TV Plus. Is the Goldblum show good? I haven't seen it. Is Oprah's show good?
For All Mankind is good.
I actually like For All Mankind. I've been kind of engrossed in that. I thought I would hate it because, damn it, we landed on the moon first. But it's actually it's an interesting way to do it.
You get me as soon as you have as an episode title like Apollo 18, Apollo 19. Like, let's find out what happened when they get the long Range Rover and they're able to do like the overnight encampment like up to 8 miles away from the landing site. Like, and then what happens? They get to do geological surveys 8 miles away from the landing site. But, okay, Andy.
It is for people like you and me, Andy, who are NASA buffs, who recognize like there's all sorts of little, Easter eggs in there of real life NASA stuff.
Give me K missions. I want my K missions.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right. Anything else that you guys thought? So, and I guess I have to get Disney Plus. I have a Verizon
M. Night
account.
I'm going to mispronounce his last name.
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan. The trailer for his show looks so creepy. I don't know how it's not going to be a movie, but it looked so disturbing and creepy that I'm very interested.
Yeah, me too. I love him. Well,
did you see the trailer, Leo?
Yeah, it looks good. It's not out It's not out yet. It's a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that freaked me out quite a little bit.
So I think, by the way, the numbers on Dickinson came from, not from Apple, obviously. They're not telling anybody how they're doing, from a research. Let me get the Business Insider article. I typed it wrong here. People who do this kind of analysis, their name would be, I just want to get Parrot Analytics. They also do app analytics, but they have a list of the top 10 most in-demand original streaming shows. They do it by measuring something called demand expressions, which is the company's globally standardized TV demand measurement unit that reflects the desire, engagement, and viewership weighted by importance. So I don't know. It's not really ratings. Dickinson, the only Apple TV Plus show in the top 10 for the week of November 6th to the 12th.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So For All Mankind was leading until 2 days before launch. I don't know how they know that. So clearly they're counting things besides streams. But Dickinson surged since it premiered.
They're counting tweets.
I hate to say it, but that's what it sure sounds like, doesn't it?
Yeah. How do you, if you're an agent for either the creators or the stars, writers of these series, how do you enter into renegotiation without the numbers to back it up, saying this is your most popular series, and therefore we gave you kind of a deal on the first season, but we're going to have to ask for a serious bump, but without the numbers to say, and here's how much you will suffer if we take our stars elsewhere. I wish I knew how that business worked, because
they might have something contractually.
They're already shooting season 2 of Morning Show. $300 million for season 1.
And Mandalorian. I'm so excited, Leo.
So I only saw the trailer. It's worth it. It's worth $6.99 a month.
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I'll just say Lone Wolf and Cub, and that's all you need to know.
Lone Wolf. And
so good.
All I needed to know was Werner Herzog. Yeah, Andy and I are on the same page.
And Nick Nolte.
Nick Nolte. Oh, you had me at Nolte. Okay, let me take a break, and then we're going to get picks. And if you guys would help me out here, the first things I should do, install set on my new MacBook Pro. LastPass, obviously. Well, that's not even a question, yeah. Well, frankly, I have to. Otherwise, I can't get anything else. I don't know my passwords. Our show today, LastPass is a sponsor, we should mention. Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks, another sponsor, the #1 all-in-one small business invoicing and accounting solution. It makes running your business a breeze, and I say that with actual firsthand knowledge because I used FreshBooks practically when they first started. I was going up to Canada, and I was bemoaning the job of invoicing. Amber MacArthur told me, oh, there's this new company in Toronto. You got to try it. And boy, was she right. It starts with the invoices. You can completely automate the invoices. And as a result of putting your expenses either in the invoices or into the app, putting the invoices in, you kind of know how you're doing. You can know at a glance which invoices are outstanding, who's overdue. You can automatically send reminders to those overdue people. The invoices are beautiful, of course. They're completely customizable. You can have your logo on them. You can change the color, fonts, and more. But what's one of the great things for me that made a big difference was I could accept payments through the invoice. You can now accept credit cards, and that means you get paid on average like a lot faster, twice as fast. It also handles multiple languages and multiple currencies. That was also important. I had to invoice in Canadian dollars. It did it all for me. If you keep track of hours, you can bill for tracked hours. You can have different hourly rates for different projects, even for the same client. You can track time against client or project or more. You can organize your expenses. No more, storing receipts in a shoebox. You just take a picture of them with the FreshBooks app. It goes right into the FreshBooks app, into the invoice if you're billing for expenses. It does all the tax categorization for you. You'll stay on budget with an easy-to-read summary of your spending. And the thing that was so huge for me, you'll know whether you're making money or not. A lot of us small business owners don't really even know until tax time. You'll know every day because FreshBooks tells you. The FreshBooks mobile app is great. It's a great way to share with a team, management duties, communication duties. And if you ever have a question about FreshBooks, they've got the best customer service. Those nice people that I knew way back when in Toronto, they're still there, and they'll answer your phone calls, your emails. They even have live chat. So look, here's a good time to end 2019 on a high note. Hit the ground running in 2020. Your tax accountant will thank you. And if you're doing your own taxes, you will thank you with FreshBooks. Go to freshbooks.com/MacBreak. Put MacBreak Weekly in the How Did You Hear About Us section. You'll get 30 days free. freshbooks.com/MacBreak. Thank you, FreshBooks, for saving my life. All right, Dave Hamilton, pick of the week, sir.
You asked for advice for your MacBook
Yes.
Pro.
Yes.
And so for the love of all that is good and pure, open up system preferences, go to General, and set show scroll bars to always, because they need to be there.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes, because it's this weird thing where they're sometimes there and sometimes not.
Drives you batty.
Yeah.
You don't want to be bad.
I don't want to be batty.
No.
Okay,
so you go there and you do that.
So that's doing that. First piece that is a very good bit of advice. Are you a dark mode or light mode or an auto mode?
On my desktop machine, I am a light mode person, and on my laptop, I let it switch auto.
Okay,
so
that makes sense because you're going around places and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I always turn on File Vault. It's interesting with a lot of the T2 devices. I thought File Vault was on by default. On this one, I had the choice. Of course, the boxes were checked, but I always turn on that full disk encryption. Anytime you have an SSD, you should, because it's harder to erase. In fact, almost impossible to fully erase an SSD. So I've turned that on.
Yeah, with the T2 chip, it just happens immediately.
Yeah.
Because the drive is already encrypted, no matter whether that's on or off. It's just whether the key is encrypted for you or just for the T2 chip.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's why it happens so quickly.
Yeah. Right. Anything else you want to tell me to do?
Well, one of my favorite apps is Quitter. You mentioned Marco Arment early in the episode. He provides this app called Quitter for free. You put it lives in your menu bar. That's where you configure it. And it watches how often how recently you have used any given app. So it's not about how long your system has been idle. It's about how long any given app has been idle. And then you can have it quit after 30 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah, because I often will find I still got something running in the background there that I forgot to turn off.
Yeah, like QuickTime Player or something that, you forget to quit. Or I find I use it for Safari because Safari chews up so much RAM. So I have Safari set to quit after 120 minutes, which means that when I come back to my desk in the morning, it has quit. It's nice and fresh every day. So Quitter, there's my my pick of the week.
Because this has a touch bar, I'm going to put Better Touch Tool on here right away because I just
smart.
I hate the touch bar. But at least it can do something useful if I put better touch tool.
Play Doom.
Yeah, I can play Doom. Yeah, something useful. Andy Ihnatko, what do you suggest?
I'm just going to suggest Downie, the video downloader app by Charlie Monroe.
Okay.
Because not because it'll take advantage of the amazing power and sophistication of the 2019 16-inch MacBook, but because I'm reminded of every single day how much great abandoned content is up on YouTube and up on Dailymotion and other sites that doesn't deserve to die. And I'm sure that this 1981 documentary based on a production of The Taming of the Shrew starring Raul Julia and Meryl Streep, I'm sure it has not lapsed into copyright, lapsed into public domain just yet, but it's brilliant, and I never heard of it until I saw a PBS documentary about Raul Julia, and somebody took a library copy that was made for schools and put it up on YouTube in 2 parts, and I know that if I just simply bookmark it, if I plan to watch it in 2 or 3 days, someone will do a copyright strike and it'll go away. But if you get Downie, if it's a streaming site, no matter what it is, you can probably it'll find the original MP4 file that's streaming from and download it. And also, it's good for, I'm going to be on an Amtrak train for 3 or 4 hours. I want to watch the latest 4 episodes of Project Binky or Techmoan or whatever, and so I'm just going to download this stuff so I don't have to chew up my my mobile Wi-Fi. So it's just such a really great piece of software. All you do is you paste in a URL, and it will just simply figure it all out from there. The worst that can possibly happen is that if it's like a site that requires a login first, like if you have access to the BBC, you might have to log in and show your credentials first. But then as soon as you're logged in, then it will find the file and download it for you. It'll do conversion if it's in WebM and you want it to be an MP4 format. It'll convert to MP4 format, whatever you want. If you just want to strip out the audio so you can listen to like a live stream. There was a live stream that lasted for 2 hours, just a conversation between 2 people that you really 2 creators you really like, and you just want to listen to it while you work out. Great. It'll just turn it to an audio file for you. It works for free, and then if you want to keep it, it's like $20. And it's one of those things where you really feel excited about putting $20 into a developer's pocket because they built something that works really great. There are a lot of tools that kind of slap at this problem, where there are tricks and techniques and special trick URLs you can use. This is one and done. You install this app, you got it. If it's possible to download this from a streaming site, you can download it from a streaming site with this tool.
Nice. You also had a hardware pick. Don't want to interrupt that.
Just a quick one. After I posted about my opinions of the new 16-inch MacBook keyboard, people were asking, what Mac keyboards do you like? Can you recommend? And my standard go-to recommendation is still the Logitech K811 multi-switch keyboard, because the key switches are brilliant. It's very easy to transition from working on your laptop to working on your desktop, because they're meaty, really beautifully feeling switches, but they're not like full clicky switches, so they don't really throw you. Also, you can switch between 3 different paired devices at the same time. So I have right now I've got this set up to it's paired with my Mac Mini in the office. It's also paired to my iPad, and it's also paired to my phone. And I have to switch between the 3 at any time. I just hit one of these 3 switches that switches the pairing to another device, and you can do that on the fly. I've done things where someone is texting me, and I just simply hit the F2 key, and now I'm keyboarding into my phone's messaging app. And it's not terribly expensive. It's less than $100. You can usually get for about $80. And I actually have a couple of these. I have one that stays in the office, and I have one that in a travel case, that if I'm going to be out of the house for more than a couple of days and I've got a lot of writing to do, I usually throw this in the bag, even if I do have my regular laptop with me. And the other recommendation is definitely check out a mechanical keyboard. This is my standard. This is the one that's attached to like my big desktop. This is the WASD Code keyboard. They no longer make it, but they make keyboards just like it.
Yeah, that's the one I use. I have 2 of them. I love
those.
Yeah,
and of course it makes these beautiful loud noises. But there are times where I really do have to get through many thousands of words in a single day, and what it really is, wake up at 8. turn on the writing machine at 8:30, and then realize it's 8 p.m. that you're still writing and you haven't actually eaten yet. This is the sort of keyboard that I'm using all day long because they're super comfortable. It's also super customizable. You can choose what kind of switches you want, what kind of feel, how loud they are, how much bounce they are. They will actually send you like a little Whitman sampler kit of like 4 different keys.
Oh, I got that. I know, it's so funny.
Send me one,
cherry red versus cherry brown. Yeah.
And I sent a set of like different rubber rings to set a dampening effect. Then you can basically mix and match and say, okay, great, give me the 88 key style keyboard with cherry brown switches, and I also want the function keys to be gray. I want most of the keys to be black, but I do want the command keys to be red.
That's nice.
And I also want the Pokemon logo, gym logo, to be on the space bar. They can really customize it any way you want, and because this is the steering wheel of your life
right.
when you use a computer. And so this is an opportunity to get exactly what you want, the layout you want, the size you want, the colors you want, the feel you want. And if you are spending lots of days doing this, if you're touching this every single moment of your working day, you may as well be touching something that is exactly the way you want it to feel and the way you want it to work. And so they're not cheap. I think they start at like 150, they go up to like 200 and a little bit more, but I never regretted spending a couple $100 for this keyboard because I've been using it for 7 years or something, still working strong. Now the keycaps are a little bit polished, but I can always buy new keycaps and keep customizing it. So that's my recommendation.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you, Andrew. Rene, Ritchie, any thoughts about?
You're going to install anything that I recommend anyway, like BB Edit, all the basics. I know you've got well covered. But what I am going to recommend is once you get used to the speed of these laptops, you are not going to want to go back. So this is Samsung's X5 Drive.
I have it. I bought it when you recommended it before. I got the 2 terabyte.
So take that and use your favorite Duper or Cloner or whatever software. I use Super Duper just because
me too.
Dave Nanian is an amazing individual and makes brilliant software. But once your clones and your drive is working as fast as the internal computer, it's like being velocitized on a highway. You never have to get off at the exit. You are always going 120 miles an hour.
Brilliant.
It's just such a better experience.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a Thunderbolt 3 external drive, bus powered, so you don't have to plug it in. It's expensive. It's not cheap.
It's on sale round about these couple weeks, Leo. It's
I forgot.
I paid for it.
Yeah. Darn it! I forgot it's Black Friday's coming up. I should get a second one. I got the 2 terabyte.
Like November.
Yeah.
It was but even so, it was $1,400 when I bought it. It was been down to $700 all year, and I think it's probably going to go lower over the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye open.
I should. Yeah. I should have a second one just in case. Speaking of Black Friday, let's give the ritualistic annual plug. Rene.
Okay, I will be playing.
Rene, no, I'm giving Rene a chance to plug his sister's site.
Yeah, this is owned by the same company that owns iMore, but they also are just phenomenal individuals. They literally do not. I don't know how they do it. They must be on kryptonite and spinach all week, but they are just up 24/7, finding the best deals, adjusting them like on an hourly basis. And there's some amazing stuff. Like an Apple Watch Series 3 is already on sale for $129. The iPads are $199 there. I think Walmart had it for $129. The iPads are going on sale. The AirPods have been on sale. Like Black Friday has become Black November, and there's just amazing amount of stuff, and they are on top of it all the time.
Completely agree. Thrifter.com. All right, guys, this was fun. It's really nice to be back.
Enjoy the new toy.
And I have a new toy.
It's so good to have you back.
I have a new toy.
The thing is, Leo, like when you lose power in the office, is it going to be because of the power company or because you were just draining so much with the CPU?
It's already charged full. I'm ready to go. I'm road ready. That's Andy Ihnatko. We'll catch you on WGBH this week.
Actually, I was on yesterday where the show keeps getting preempted because of WGBH is doing live coverage of the live telecast of the impeachment hearings. I'm usually on Fridays. I was off on Friday, but I did it today, Monday instead. Might be on Friday. Might be on as usual. Check on my Twitter at Ihnatko, and I usually announce like when I'm going to be on.
You should follow his Twitter. Actually, it's well worth following. Ihnatko. IHNATKO. He's also at Ihnatko.com. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave Hamilton, for joining us, filling in for Lori Gill at MacObserver.com. He's also Dave Hamilton on Twitter. Anything you'd like to plug these days?
Oh, come listen to Mac Geek Gab if you want any of your Apple, Mac, iPhone questions answered. That's what we do every week, and happy to answer everybody's questions. So
absolutely.
We always keep it fun. Yeah.
That's also at MacObserver.com.
It is.
Com.
Yeah, thanks for having me so much.
Really appreciate it. Rene Ritchie, you catch him on Vector all the time at imore.com/Vector. And he is, of course, what's your title at iMore these days?
I don't know. I just help Lori. I'm like a Lori's
assistant at imore.com.
Yep.
I think he's the big boss, but we won't say anything. Thank you, Rene.
Figurehead.
Figurehead. That's right. That's what I am, and I love it. Thanks.
You let me get back to making videos. It's amazing. It's an amazing
It's so
feeling.
wonderful, and we have such a great team here, and you guys such a great team through our hosts. I feel like I just show up and listen, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We do MacBreak Weekly. We try to do MacBreak Weekly at 11 a.m. Pacific on Tuesdays, roughly 2 p.m. Eastern time, and I say roughly. That would be 1800 UTC. And it's just because I was so glad to be back on iOS Today. We went long. iOS Today, then MacBreak Weekly. You know what? You should just tune in twit.tv/live starting around 9 a.m. Pacific and just watch it throughout the day. All three shows are great.
There you go.
Yeah. In fact, all four shows, because after this, it's Security Now, and then it's all about Android. So it's a pretty rich day of information for Apple users and security people and for Android users. And so just tune in. Twit.tv/live for live audio and video streams. If you're watching live, you should chat live at irc.twit.tv. But on-demand versions of the show are also available at our website, twit.tv/mbw. Or you can subscribe in your favorite podcast application and get it automatically the minute it's available. Just as we have a real-time chat for people watching live, we have a asynchronous chat in our new Twit community, www.twit.community. It's a lot of fun. It's been a great forum. I've been spending a lot of time in there. So is Micah and Ant and all our hosts. So it's a really great way to kind of talk back. But, honestly, I don't think people go there to talk to us as much as now they go to talk to themselves. It's become a really nice community in just a matter of weeks. Twit.community. That's it for MacBreak Weekly. I'm sorry to say it's time to go back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.